Okay, hello everybody to Emotional Human Design class. We will not get all emotional, I promise. Although, make it a little bit emotional.
Said don't trip over the cord.
Okay, so mostly everybody in here has been to one of my classes except for, what's your name again?
Valeria.
Valeria, okay. So I do a bunch of different stuff, Valeria. I do this kind of stuff, human design. I do emotional processing stuff and belief work, and massage and energy work, and Vedic astrology, and the Enneagram, stuff like that.
I can do it.
Yeah, I knew you were coming, and I just feel I feel unsettled when I know you're coming and you're not there yet. But also, I thought Melissa was coming, so. Okay, so we are going to talk about whether your center is emotional or not. Okay, so you're not emotional, right? You're not emotional. You're not emotional. He is emotional, and you're emotional, and Jan's not emotional. We might actually have you switch chairs, just so that we have all the emotional people on one side of the room. Because we're gonna do some like silly stuff, yeah.
Wait,
So if possible, if Marcus and Jan can switch places.
Okay, can I do her first?
Yeah, you can totally. Yeah. We already know that she's emotional, but
Who, me?
we already know that
she
Sharon's
is, yeah.
emotional.
Sam?
I'm the odd man
I would
out.
have liked to have seen what Melissa was. Okay. So, if you are emotional, it means that your solar plexus. Wait, first let me. We pretty much talked about me. I had like a bunch of weird degrees in esoteric subjects. Okay, like a master's degree in Vedic science and 2 BAs and certificates and various things. So my whole journey has been to discover this, basically, so far, okay? And this is my health model. And basically what I figured out is that if you are dealing with your beliefs and your feelings, because they're the closest things to your soul here, then you're going to be physically healthy also, okay? If you're not dealing with your beliefs and your feelings, I'm in a hardcore week today, you guys, I'm going to warn you. If you're not dealing with your beliefs and your feelings, you cannot expect anything in your life to get better. And you can't expect to be healthy either, because it just doesn't work.
You're a manifesting generator.
If you are feeling your feelings and examining your beliefs, then you're going to start really curing any physical or energetic problems you have, or even any collective problems you have, because some of us projectors, for instance, have collective problems sometimes, like who we're around, and the whole dynamic of energy between those people. Okay, so human design is this weird system that this guy who was trapped in Spain on an island of Ibiza
just right.
in the 80s
Manifesting generator.
had a direct download, he said, or cognized, or psychically, whatever you want to call it. He had an information episode that created a system, and the system was, thanks for switching seats, guys. The system was about the chakra system, the Kabbalah, the 64 aspects of the I Ching, and astrology. Okay, so when you're born, you have a natal chart in astrology, right? This is very similar. When you're born, you have a natal chart here, but it shows what planets are in which gates of your physical energy system, like where the I Ching gates are in your chakras. Everybody has the same gates, but where the planets are and where the asteroids are and where all the different stars are going to impact your whole being, okay? So it's about your physical energy system. It's not, just as with astrology, it's not like you can't change things by growing or being open to change, okay? You can always change your reality. But you come in with a certain amount of tendencies, a certain amount of karma. I mean, karmic tendencies is a good way of putting it, right? Actions and reactions, things that you personally had some emotional or mental problems with in the past, basically, is a very simple way of putting it, okay? So then you chose to experience certain things this lifetime because of the lessons that you did or did not learn in the past. Okay. A lot of it's about what you didn't learn in the past, actually, right? You chose to experience certain situations that might have been very uncomfortable because of what you didn't learn yet. Or because you actively, this is a little bit more rare, but it's not that rare in some circles, like this kind of circle, you actively chose to take on energies of other people's in order to help the entire world. Okay? So you have this whole chakra system in human design, and it's so cool because it's about your physical energy system and how your physical energy system moves within itself, but also more importantly in relation to other people. So in relationship, how that impacts, how your energy impacts it and how somebody else's energy impacts you. So that's why I find it a little bit more practical than astrology, because astrology is a lot of it's about like, this is where this archetype is in your unconscious, and so you created this kind of personality for yourself. And that's useful, it is useful, but this is a little bit more physical body and energetic body oriented. So it's a little bit more like about how it actually looks on the outside the surface of your life too. And if you can start to work with all the information that's provided in human design, then you can start to actually really get yourself to health, actually. Because there's all the information's there, pretty much, for your personal health and enlightenment. Pretty much. Okay, so for instance, there are 4 different types: reflectors, projectors, generators, manifesting generators is like a subtype of generators, and manifestors, okay? I'm not going to go into all that stuff too much because next week's class is going to go into all of that stuff a lot. Okay, so today we're just going into whether or not you're emotional, because I feel like that is one of the main keys on our earth at this time, because at this time everything is about absorbing repressed emotion, basically. Because if we're trying to raise our vibration and there's things that we're avoiding, then we're always going to be chased by them. We're always going to be chasing like at our back. And so there's so much dysfunction in the past on Earth that the system did not work, right? It didn't work. It was a faulty system. So there's all this repressed emotion that's still hanging around like in clouds around the Earth, okay? Because the emotions were not good since the system wasn't working. And also, probably a lot of people came in order to try to learn from that situation. The thing about emotions is that you can only experience them when you're in a physical body, as far as I know. Okay? They're pretty close to your soul, right? So there are some probably soul emotions that you always have, I don't know for sure, but I know that negative emotions, I think, feel foreign to some people, possibly because it's kind of a uniquely Earth experience, I think. And so that's all understandable. But at the same time, we came here to be here now, so we might as well deal with what we've got so that we can move up and forward and onward, right? Okay. So, there's only 2 of you that are emotional. This does not surprise me, because most of the people that would come to this class would be non-emotional. I'll describe why, okay? But good job for you guys for coming, because the people that are emotional actually probably need this information even more. Because if they can start admitting their feelings, that's like the biggest deal in the world, because usually it's the emotional people that are running from their feelings. I'm not saying that you guys are, but usually that's what's happening, is it's the emotional people that are saying they're not emotional, okay? And it's the non-emotional people that are saying that they are emotional. And the reason why non-emotional people feel emotional is partially because you're around people who are emotional. That's why I'm separating you guys just for fun. It's not like, they're like the other side or whatever. But we're going to do some fun activities. Like, if you guys are around one of them, probably you're going to feel their feelings, okay? So that's why it's like a major disservice to themselves and other people for them to not admit that they're having feelings. Because you guys always have a feeling all the time. There's always a feeling going on. absolutely impossible for there to not be a feeling.
That's why you disturbed me so much. I'm just kidding.
And it's so weird
So-
because I feel like, I mean, maybe especially this year or whatever, like I don't feel anything.
Yeah, and that is a sign of blockage. Yeah, but you know that, so
Yeah.
you're really aware, and that's why it takes a lot of courage to come here. You know, for an emotional person, probably because we're talking about feelings. So most emotional people don't want to talk about feelings, ironically, right? So the non-emotional people are not only feeling the feelings of these guys, but you're also probably feeling like collective, like feelings of the whole planet, like things that are happening energetically on the planet, as well as your feelings are a way that you can evolve, okay? Having feelings are actually like an indication of beliefs and issues for you. So if you're having negative feelings, you can actually look at that and say, how can I transcend this, go through this to the next place? That's why feeling feelings is really awesome for you, and I will outline that whole technique and everything. I almost didn't want to give you guys the emotional processing technique in this class because honestly, the way we did it last week was the best way, because it really needs like a whole 2 hours on its own to actually really practice and absorb it and learn about it, because it's a technique. It's not like I should just be given away like, yeah, here you go, just try this. But it's okay because the concept of it is so important right now that if you don't start having these ideas, at least in your consciousness, then we're all still running away all the time, all of us. Like most of our problems are because we're not feeling something. Because we're creating this pattern, right? We talked about this last week, if you were here last week. We're creating this pattern like this. By not feeling something, we keep going like, okay, this thing happened with this person, right? Today. Then tomorrow, this thing happens with this other person. It's the same pattern, though, okay? Then the next day, something happens with your mom. It's the same pattern. And it started back here when you were a child and you were doing something with your parents like this, okay? And maybe it doesn't feel like you're creating it, because maybe it feels like you're a victim. But even victims are creating their reality, actually. That's why there's always something we can take responsibility for and something we can change ourselves without having to just like be stuck in this pattern forever and like be like, oh, woe is me, how can I, do anything about it? So this pattern is what gets completely cut off once you start feeling the feeling, okay? There's no reason to have all these stories anymore. There's no reason for life to create these stories for you if you're feeling the feelings that you don't want to feel. So that's what's awesome, is you're going to stop, if you start feeling your feelings, this is for everybody, emotional or non-emotional, right? You're going to stop creating life having to give you, like, dramatic events, for instance. Like, a lot of people get into car accidents, or they get death-type illnesses, like terminal illnesses, or they get that one of their close friends dies or something, because for that person, they need to start feeling something there, and they were refusing to do it until something really dramatic had to happen. That's why it's like, if people are not feeling their feelings, this is my area of specialty. I can feel it, and I'm like, wow, I really hope we can get to that place in you, because otherwise you're going to create something bad happening in your life, and that's no fun for anybody, Okay, so it's not a big deal. We all have done it. We all do this, okay? This is an old story that's been going on forever. We've all created bad things happening in our lives because we didn't want to feel stuff. And we've all had these patterns going on forever too, okay? It's just about, at this point in time, it's like vibrations are going, woo, And it feels very clearly to me like, that's it. No more time to, like, tread water, It's not treading water time anymore. It's like, get off your butts, people, and let's do it. That's my thing today. Okay, so Human Design is this weird guy. He's actually dead now. His name was some kind of normal thing, and then he changed it to Ra-Uru, who... My friend and I have been studying this system in depth for 5 years. We did not take the $20,000 training because we decided that we didn't even like the way that Ra-Uru looks at his own system. Because it was a little bit biased towards manifestors. He was a manifestor. A little bit sexist. He was a guy. So there are a couple different things that were interesting, right? Because sometimes people have downloads from the universe, but their ego starts getting involved at a certain point. So then you have like these discussions about things, and you're like feeling kind of weird about it. And I stopped listening to him actually, because he was telling us stuff about, you know, how only projectors should be with projectors, for instance. Okay, like all of us are going to interact with everyone else. It's part of life. There's no need to hide from generators or projectors or manifestors or anybody else, right? But knowing, like, understanding yourself is so useful. Understanding yourself is like golden. Okay, because it's really an awesome system. So your emotional center in human design is your solar plexus, and that, weirdly enough, is this chakra center. When you look at the graph, it's on your right hip, actually. So it's like, in human design, you have a top chakra, you have a second one, this one's your crown chakra, you have a mental one, you have a throat, pretty much like normal chakras, and then we start getting a little bit different here. You have a heart, or G center. They call it the G center. Don't ask me why, because it really has nothing to do with anything else that makes any sense. So I just call it the heart. And there's an ego, and there is a intuition, or the spleen, also called the spleen because it's responsible for your immune system, which I think is interesting, because in Chinese medicine they always said that the spleen is responsible for your immune system. And in conventional medicine, they say that you have a spleen and they don't know what it does. Which I think is funny, right? Okay, so here's your sacral center, which you only have defined if you're a generator, or a manifesting generator. And your root chakra. And then, okay, so your ego is actually more like right here. I'm doing a bad chart here, but your emotional center, your solar plexus is right here. And they're all connected in different ways depending on what your chart is. So you can tell it's not a completely normal chakra system. That's pretty much what it's like. Okay? And it looks a little bit more like a person than that when you look at it online. We'll be like this, you know, like that. Okay. So we're going to try to avoid going into a lot of other human design stuff today. If we have time, we can always do that. Okay. So this is your emo center right here. And since I'm so into emotions, I always look at this as one of the first things I look at. Even some of the main rules about projectors versus generators or different things like that actually, I think, have to do with this sometimes, and not just about whether or not the person's a different type. Like, a projector could have this emotional center, and that would be totally different than a projector without an emotional center.
What's on the left, Hillary?
This one?
Yeah.
Intuition, spleen.
Intuition. Okay.
So, each center, I'm going to give you a really brief overview, okay? Your crown chakra is kind of what you would think. It's about spirituality. It's about whether or not you have already had past lives of enlightenment, basically. If you haven't had past lives of enlightenment, that's no big deal. That doesn't mean that you don't have, like, awesome, crazy magic powers or something. It just means that this lifetime you came in with this open because you're a spiritual seeker. And the mental center is just exactly what it sounds like. It's about whether or not you have your own thoughts or whether you're getting the thoughts of the collective beliefs in the world, the thoughts of people around you, the thoughts of your family, the thoughts of... They can all be like... It can be a little bit of a burden. But it also can mean that you're open mentally to getting, like, for instance, your guidance, like your downloads, you're hearing your guides talk through your mind, and that can actually be really your guides talking. Whereas if this is filled in, sometimes it's like there's a closedness there in the mind, and you're just going to have a cycle of thoughts, and it doesn't have any authority to it. There's no authority to the mind anyway in human design. Human design is all about that the true authorities are down here. The true authorities are your intuition, your gut, your heart, and even sometimes your ego, actually, which I like the way that human design sees your ego because it's completely different than a lot of the spiritual systems. Okay, so if you're open in centers, if you have open centers, it means that you're open to vibrations, beliefs, emotions, energy of other people, the entire planet, groups, your family, all that stuff, okay? And if you came in with a lot of open centers, it's quite possible that you're doing some kind of service just by being here. Because you're just like absorbing a lot of stuff. But you have to treat it like people who don't have emotional centers, for instance, you have to treat it like it's your feeling still. Because if we say, no, that's just somebody else's feeling, I mean, it might be true, but and it's useful to make that recognition even, that's useful, but you still want to process it like it's your own because it was given to you, and God wouldn't give you anything that you can't handle, and you can use it to get, like, your vibration up, actually, okay? Whereas if you're emotional, you just want to start being, like, at peace with the fact that you have a feeling all the time, you know, and, like, identifying it and telling people around you you have a feeling. Because if you do that, then for one thing, it relieves everyone over here because they're like, what's going on? Did I do something wrong? Something's weird here. It's because you guys are putting off feelings and you don't always really know it. So there's like, you know, feelings are very subconscious, you know? Feelings are very like hard to grasp for people. We don't really know what's happening with feelings. They're always there though. And so we're always like, was that a feeling, or is that my feeling, or their feeling? I mean, there's all sorts of questions usually, right? Or is that really a feeling, or should I really feel that? Because, like, it's bad. I'm just on a thing today, too, about, like, going into fear, guys. Going into fear is what you have to do by being in a body here, okay? The thing that is wrong about it for you or anybody is thinking that the story is true. Okay, the story is not true. It's just an excuse for you to feel the fear in your body as a feeling. So if you can do that and tell yourself that it's not about the story, then you can get somewhere. You can start moving forward. If you keep running away from feelings forever, they're going to keep going and running after you until they bite you in the butt eventually. So, okay. So if you are emotional, you are connected to the moon, which is pretty cool, huh? The moon goes through a different astrological sign every 3 days. So, it's like within a 3-day experience, you guys kind of go through every kind of feeling that's available to you. Okay? So, if you're not feeling every kind of feeling that's available to you in 3 days, then something's blocked, actually. It's actually a part of the experience that you asked to have coming here. You actually asked for this. So, you're connected. You're always going to be connected. So, in 3 days, you're going to have, like, the full, you know, the full, like, variety of experience emotionally. So, that means there's a high and there's a low, too, right? There's a cycle. So if there's a high and a low, then what you feel like up here is way different than what you feel like down there, right? So when somebody asks you a question like, do you want to help me move on Saturday or whatever, you guys have to be like, well, can I tell you in a couple days? Because if you're at this point right here, you're going to be like, yeah, I'll help you move. Okay? And if you're down here, you're going to be like, no, I'm not your friend, dude. Go away. Okay? And it's the truth of everything lies somewhere in the middle, right? And you guys have to go through that whole 3-day cycle and go through all of those emotions in order to understand real truth. That's why if you have emotional as your authority, so maybe go back and look that up online. If your authority is emotional, that means you have to wait 3 days to make any real decisions, actually. So if you go to the grocery store, for instance, you need to know what your state is emotionally when you go to the grocery store. This sounds really serious, but if you know that you're on a high, then you know that you're gonna buy all sorts of more things probably than you want, because that's what emotional highs are like, Woohoo! It's awesome! Yeah! Okay, that's what the emotional high is like. If you're going to the grocery store on a low, then you're not gonna buy a lot of stuff, and you might even not buy as much stuff as you need. Okay.
Is that the authority?
So it's really important for you guys to journal, because if you can journal, you can figure out what your feeling is. Because usually you guys are the ones that are like, what? I don't have a feeling. And that really bothers the people over here, okay? And if you journal, you're going to get good at this, and you're going to get really self-observing and start to really understand what your feeling is all the time. And see the cycle, too. See, how it goes up and then back down again. And if you journal, then you'll kind of know, okay, right this second is maybe not a great moment for me to go to the grocery store. So I'm going to buy a whole bunch of food that I don't want or whatever. Right? Or, those weird ornaments that they have in the grocery store that are like, why would you buy that at the grocery store? Okay. So, admit feelings. So once you figure out what your feelings are, then you admit them to yourself, which is mostly just by saying, look, I feel this feeling. Okay, it's just letting whatever's there be there, which actually unblocks tons of stuff. And then you admit to people around you. This is the hard part. But if you can do this, guys, because our society doesn't like feelings, right? So that's your guys' big challenge. That's the part of being emotional that's really hard. Is that ultimately, to do the right thing and to have a clear feeling life, you would know what your feeling is and admit it to everybody else around you. Like your family. I don't mean you have to go out on the street and I feel afraid today. But if you can admit it to the people that live with you, at least, then they're going to be a lot clearer on their relationship with you and why they feel a certain way and all sorts of stuff, if they're one of these people over here, right? And this is the hardest part that you guys have, because people don't want to, our society is not comfortable with that. It's like, what? We're going to talk about feelings? But it's just not an option anymore. It's like, this is where we are now. If we don't do this now, we're all going to the Liddy bin, I think. Either that, or we just attract more and more bad stuff that we don't want in our life, Okay. So, people that are not emotional, they may initially seem dry. Okay. To these people over here, okay? They may initially seem dry. That's just because they don't have their own energy in that place here. But that doesn't mean that they don't have feelings, okay? They do have feelings, but their feelings are more specifically about their evolution, actually. And they don't have a rainbow of experience that you guys have that are emotional. They don't have the rainbow of up high and low, up high and low. They're going to be kind of more consistent in terms of how they feel about a certain thing, for instance, because if they're not going through the high and the low, then their opinions aren't going to change too much, about whether they like, macaroni and cheese or not. You guys might like macaroni and cheese a ton when you're in the high and not when you're in the low or something. I'm just using that as a really bad example. What?
The other
The
way
other way
around.
around.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a comfort food.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that's exactly, yeah. It's a very good correction. Okay, so,
I'm speaking for both of us. I don't
I
know.
love macaroni and cheese.
yeah, I mean, everybody loves it, right? But it's like when you guys are on the high, you might go eat a lot of vegetables that you eat, okay? When you're on the low, you might not. These guys are going to be like trying to do the same thing every day, kind of. So there's benefits and drawbacks to both of those, okay? These guys might need to learn to be a little more flexible, okay? You guys need to learn maybe to get into more of a routine, maybe. Like, make yourself kind of have some consistency every day. Okay. Okay, these guys need to do my process that I taught last week. Okay? The people that are not emotional, especially. Because for these people, even to figure out what they feel is a big deal. And then to admit it is like half the battle, okay? And do the first couple steps of my process is good, okay? These people need to go through the whole thing, and you need to work on your beliefs. Because you can transcend everything that's bad in your life. You can up the whole thing. You guys are always going to have some negative feelings in your life. It's just part of your experience that you came in here for positive, negative, in between all of the different feelings that there are. So accepting that and feeling at peace with that is enlightenment, eventually. And for you guys, noticing that you're having bad feelings, figuring out what the belief is that's in there that's not right, and changing that is how you get to enlightenment, okay? So, okay, we'll go through some practical stuff pretty soon. Okay, so figure out the belief that goes with your feelings. Okay. Start to understand where you may be doing a service to the world. Okay, what I mean about this is if you came in without an emotional center at this time, there's tons of emotions everywhere around you, okay? So you probably came in with a certain understanding that you were helping more than just yourself, okay? So if you understand your own transmutation gift that you're giving, transmutation means to take stuff that's negative and make it positive. You can do that by asking your guides, asking a psychic, studying yourself, self-observation, talking to your higher self, all that stuff. When you figure that out, then it's like there's a certain amount of burden that's relieved. It's like you don't have to, first of all, you guys have to release your guilt because it's usually you guys that are feeling guilty. Not always. I mean, we all have a lot of guilt, actually. But especially these guys over here are going to blame themselves for things because you have an open emotional center. So it seems like other people's feelings are your fault. Okay? Wow, I went ahead of myself and then I saw my note. It was exactly that. It was awesome. These people are usually feeling feelings. Okay. So it's funny, because usually these people think they're not, they feel nothing sometimes, right? Okay. Or they want to feel nothing. It's either they're blocked or they're idealizing that state of neutrality, okay? These people are feeling all sorts of stuff over here. And that's why this whole thing with feelings, if we can all just start taking responsibility for whatever feelings we have, then, I mean, there shouldn't be any blame going on between any of these, you know what I'm saying? We shouldn't be blaming them, they should be blaming us. I am on this side, by the way. Nobody should be blaming anybody because it's not helping anything. You should be feeling whatever you've got that's part of your karma, right? Okay, but these guys to check out the charts of other people around them and to do some kind of energetic protection is probably a good idea. Okay, like learning about energetic boundaries, learning about like, emotional responsibility to the extent of making others around you take emotional responsibility for themselves too. Like you shouldn't be taking on their feelings consciously. You're already doing it just by being here. But part of your lesson is not to like actively like sit there and listen to somebody who's dumping their feelings on you for 75 minutes. Okay? Because that doesn't help them actually. You know why? Because what helps them, if they're over here and they've got a feeling, is you ask them, what's the feeling? Cut the whole thing down by like 50 minutes. Ask them what feeling they're feeling. And if you show that you're not judgmental about it and that you're okay with their feelings, this could be a huge healing moment for them and for you. Okay? Judgment, no judgment. Judgment does not work with feelings. No blame. Feelings are just around and they're traveling around to everybody, and that's why it's impossible to blame anyone, even if that was appropriate, and it's not appropriate with feelings. It's just like not even, it's an experience that you're having as part of the infinity of consciousness, and you should be happy to have feelings. That's actually like one of the reasons you came here. So it's not like, oh God, I don't want to feel this. It's that person's fault, okay? We can't do that anymore. We have to be like, yay, I get to feel this feeling right now, which is really hard at first, but after you start doing it, it gets easier and easier. Like these two ladies over here have started doing it a while ago, and they can tell you it gets easier. So, I don't know what that was, but
I just said you're happy because I got angry today.
oh yeah, I was happy. I was actually happy because I could feel that she had anger in her that she wasn't letting out. And then she got all angry today, and I was like, yay, I've been waiting for you to be angry for a long time. And I just reminded her it's not about those people. It's not about the people that made her angry. It's just that she needed to feel angry. That's all. Okay. So, if we change our attitude towards emotions, that yes, just to say yes to them instead of no is a huge thing, okay? Yes, I want to be here right now. It's like being fully present. Okay. Oh, rainbow of emotions. There are some good things about this, you guys. With that emotional center, I would think you could make really awesome art, for instance. Seriously, if you're really in tune with yourself and what you're feeling and, like, the way that impacts your experience of every moment is very unique and cool, actually. Okay? But, it's just our environment has been very left-brained and male and all that. So it's been like, no, we don't want to hear that, And so we put people in mental institutions just because they have feelings sometimes. Okay. So, but I shouldn't say that because some people are in mental institutions because they were running away from their feelings and it got so bad that they had a breakdown of some kind. Okay, so, in terms of, I'm going to go, like, this is kind of silly, actually, because you should just always take care of yourself and just deal with yourself, and then everything else that happens in your life, will be fine if you're taking care of yourself. But as far as, like, relationships, for instance, these guys may want to be in another relationship with another person that's like them, that's not emotional. The reason is because the other person's feelings are going to be really, really influencing to these guys, okay? And it can be a little bit too much gravity in a certain sense. Like, it's not really fair to have an unequal situation like that where one person's always absorbing the feelings of the other person. But I'm not saying, like, do this or don't do that, because it's not that simple, right, as far as these kinds of things in life. But this is just an idea. You may want to be with a non-emotional person.
No, I actually used that exact. I said that like it was like a whirlwind with an ex of mine, actually. I tried to tell her that anytime I'm around her, I feel like I get sucked into everything she's doing. I can't, like,
the feeling.
I can't block it off, so.
Yeah. So, and sometimes that could be heightened by, like, if you're a projector like us, and you're with a generator, and then you're feeling their energy and their feelings, too. But it's really funny because the people that people think are the ones in power or that have everything under control, those are the ones that don't, usually. And it's actually all opposite from what we think all the time, right? Like, I met an emotional manifestor over the weekend who is a 2. Also, she's a woman. She has 2 children. And she's an Enneagram 2, which means she's always helping everybody and trying to love other people, right? It's so funny because I'm an Enneagram 8, and so I'm supposed to be like the one in power in that situation if you look at it very surface level. But in reality, she's way scarier than I am. Because she's always having a different feeling, and she's manifesting from that feeling. If you're an emotional manifestor, you're manifesting your reality from that feeling all the time. So that's something that has to be really understood and mastered, because otherwise you're going to create these interesting, different realities all the time. And as a 2, she looks like she's just helping other people, but I feel the energy, man, because I'm only a projector, I'm not a manifestor, and I'm standing back like, I'm going to look in the wrong place, I'm going to stand in the wrong place, I'm going to say the wrong thing. That's what it feels like, you know? Because if people have this emotional motor and they're not aware of it, then it's like everyone else is like walking on, you know, icebergs. Like that, because it can be very scary. Especially emotional manifestors have tons of power.
That's right.
So the thing is, like, especially for a woman, as a manifestor who's a 2, she doesn't think she has power. She thinks she's very sensitive. So I'm using this as an example because it's like she doesn't understand that if she decides, she can change anything. She can protect herself right away by just putting, like, there's like an aura thing that manifestors can do, just like, that's it, boundary. Okay, nobody can violate you, actually, as a manifestor if you decide. So, but some of us projectors think that we're all strong and everything, okay? That's how I injured my knee this weekend. Because I was like, I'm so strong, I can wrestle you. And I'm like, oh, the knees don't go that way. Okay, that's the thing that's funny, is people are always trying to be somebody else than who they are. So, okay. So these people may want to be with another person who's emotional, just so that things are equal. And as long as, okay, I'm going to put a big caveat on this because my parents are both emotional, okay? As long, so hopefully they don't watch this video. No, I'm kidding, I don't care. As long as they're not going to help each other avoid feelings, okay? Because it's very tempting to be with another person who's emotional if you're emotional, because both of you are kind of afraid of the feelings you have because you have a very intense emotional experience of life, okay? It's very intense to have an emotional motor. So emotional people are like, no, let's have a drink and watch TV and then, like, you know what I mean? Or even, like, go to the gym or whatever. There's something that we can avoid our feelings with, okay? So try not to hook up with another person who wants to avoid their feelings, because it's not going to really help you evolution-wise. And if it doesn't help you evolution-wise, especially for people in this room probably, you're not going to last. The relationship's not going to last if it's not going to help your evolution. Okay. All right, so. Oh, yeah, and try to avoid becoming a positive feeling junkie if you're on this side. Positive feelings are good. We all like them. You should celebrate them. But your experience is going to be different almost every hour as one of these people. So if you're like, no, let's go to Disneyland. No, let's go to Disneyland. Or like, let's do this thing that makes me feel really happy. Or let's have some caffeine. Let's have some caffeine. Whatever it is. That is, you're being a positive feeling junkie. So it's just like becoming aware of stuff. You know, I know that people on this side sometimes do not want to watch like the really intense movie about the kid who gets kidnapped from the mother. You know those movies? Okay, we don't want to watch that movie because we're always absorbing everything so much. There's like a sensitivity there. That's kind of appropriate, okay? If you have a sensitivity, though, you need to feel the feeling anyway. Anybody. Doesn't matter who you are, okay? Because there's a feeling there you're avoiding, so, you know, it's going to come up eventually, and it's okay, because we're all getting the consciousness we need to deal with these feelings now and be present, and it's going to be an awesome experience eventually. When you change your attitude, it gets easier and easier and easier to start doing that work. It's just hard at the beginning, but it gets easier, and it's way easier right now than it was like when I started it 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, because the atmosphere is more like open now. Okay, so over here, if you don't want to watch a movie because it's got bad feelings, I would just look at that. Okay, it's just something to look at in yourself, because maybe you need to watch that movie then. Because it's like just being okay with that whole range of experience, you know? That's what your whole life is about.
Don't you draw stuff to yourself by absorbing that kind of feeling, though?
Okay, this is where I got beef with the entire New Age community. Okay. You draw things to yourself by avoiding feelings.
Oh, okay.
That's how you actually draw things to yourself. Yes, feelings can be a powerful manifestation tool. If you envision having something you want and you feel the feeling of what it's like to have that, that can really that can like kind of amp up your manifestation coming to you. But the biggest thing about manifestation is to figure out what's in the way of you getting it. Because God actually wants you to have everything that you want all the time. So there's nothing keeping you from if there's nothing keeping you from getting it, manifestation shouldn't be even a big problem at all. So the feeling of the thing, like, I want a new car, so I'll be like, yeah, my new car feeling. Yes, I can use that new car feeling to help manifest, but what I really need to do is figure out what is it that I'm afraid of, or that I don't want to feel guilty for, or whatever it is. It's keeping me from having the car now, because God wants me to have it. So even though this is a slow dimension, besides that slowness, just generally speaking, you're going to get it if you don't have something in the way you're avoiding that's keeping it from happening. Okay? That's like, thank you for asking that question, because that's like the biggest thing I see around me right now is people going, choose to feel a positive feeling. You can actually look it up on my website right now. I have a whole blog about it, because really, like, strong, powerful leaders in the New Age community are saying that right now. They're saying, choose to feel a positive feeling. And I'm like, okay, I like most of everything else you say, but when you say that, you just, like, prevented a whole, I don't know how many people from getting somewhere today, from getting through, like, because almost all of our evolution right now is about this. So it's not like of course you should choose, like, positive beliefs if you can, but you know what, you don't even have to do that, because if you had a completely open mind and you didn't have any beliefs, you would just be completely lined up with God. So you would just get everything you're supposed to get and do everything you're supposed to do. And it's not as much about manifestation at that point, you know? There's nothing, it's like, there's still like a assumption that we're separate from God in some way. There. And that assumption is also what got us into these patterns with these negative beliefs that are creating our negative feelings. And what I'm teaching is seems very dangerous to people at first, and it seems very, very scary and not enjoyable. But actually, it's not nearly as bad as it sounds, you know? And it's just a practice, and it gets easier and easier as you do it, just like any practice. So it actually, like, I used to meditate for like 4 hours a day or something, when I started feeling my feelings, I didn't have to do that time at all. Like, I only had to do, like, you know, an hour a day or something, practice, instead of 4 hours. That's a huge difference of time that I was given because I stopped running away from stuff. So, and at the same time, all that other stuff is great because if I hadn't done all that meditation, I probably wouldn't have been at a point where I could, like, really be present to feel my feelings and not get so overwhelmed that I, like, ran the other way, right? And got myself into some trouble. Because people do a lot of stuff in order to not feel feelings, right? They run away, they physically run away sometimes. They go get drunk. They go gamble all their money away. They do all sorts of crazy stuff. So, it's kind of like the whole answer to everything in some ways, you know? Okay, and a lot of the problems, like we talked about last week, are guilt and shame, because we should stop blaming ourselves for things, but if we felt all our guilt and shame and stopped that whole cycle of keeping ourselves down, keeping ourselves low, then we could start feeling these other feelings in a much easier way. It wouldn't be as big a deal to feel fear, anger, or sadness, actually. Because without the guilt, there's much more self-love there, and then there's compassion for your own experience, which changes everything. Makes everything easier. You have compassion for yourself. And that's like, I say that, but it's like, it's really like just a concept to most people. It's like, what does that even mean, you know? Compassion to yourself. I mean, these are like new ideas almost. Because for centuries, the church and the government and
Culture.
Yeah, our whole culture has been telling us that we are wrong, bad, and we made a mistake even when we came into this world. Like, original sin, all that stuff is just to keep us guilty and shameful. Okay, that's why if you can feel your guilt, that's like a huge step towards getting rid of extra baggage. Okay, because everybody has it. Everybody has the guilt thing. Some of these people, though, have more of it.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Okay, so in this center system, every center could be, like, what makes you unique is not only your type, your personality profile, and different things like that, but also what centers you have, you know? Like, I have this one, and this one, and this one, and that's all I have, right? So I'm getting everyone else's energy, feelings, and thoughts in every place of my body besides those places, okay? So that was really not fun. But I also got to where I am now because of that. Because sometimes you need hardship or you need negative feelings in order to learn things. Also, there's a clarity from not having some of this stuff. Like, if you have this center, then you have tons of your own energy, right? That can be distracting, okay? So if you don't have this, you might have more clarity about yourself, but less ability to get, like, physical things done. Like, if I have to go somewhere, I have, like, all this stuff, and I'm, like, you know, I'm always thinking that I can move all these things at once, and it's like, no, I can't really do that. Okay. A lot of people now have this intuition center. If you don't have it, that's a place of vulnerability for you. So that means that not only can you not rely on your intuition, so to speak, you might have like the heart or the gut that you can rely on instead. But if you can't rely on your intuition, then you also don't have your own immune system, which means that you're getting all of the vulnerabilities of the immune system of the world in the center, okay?
How do you figure out, is there a place to go to find out where you were?
Yeah,
Where
it's
that-
all on that chart that you just looked up. You just had all your,
Oh.
yeah,
okay.
your whole chart was there, so you can see exactly what's filled in and what's not. And so you guys can just do it again at home. And next week we're talking about energy centers. This one, this, you know. So all of that's going to be, we're going to go into it more. So if you want to come next week, with your full chart, it'll be awesome. And if you can't print it out, that's fine. Like, you can just, you can either draw something, or like write something down, or just come and we'll look it up again. And so, if you don't have this ego center, you don't have willpower in the same way. And you also have vulnerability as far as taking credit for things. Like, this is such a funny thing, because you'd think that if somebody has the ego, that they have an ego, right? But it's more like we don't do things for the approval or the credit the same way if we have the ego center. If you don't have the ego center, there's a certain amount of like attention you want just for like being who you are, kind of. And that's okay, but it's a vulnerability. These are all places where you can have like health problems too if you have that open center. It also is a place where you can get universal knowledge though. So you can help people sometimes if you have that open center. You can help people who don't have it. Because you're open. There's always like that difference too of like you're open-minded, right? Or you're open-hearted, or you're closed. Those things do kind of apply too. So people over here, it's good to try to be more open, okay? And people over here, it's good to try to like protect yourself more. And if you have the heart center, which is really more up here actually, then you know that you're loved, okay? If you don't have a heart center, you have a slightly more open heart in a sense, and you probably will be a spiritual seeker, and you probably will finally, if you don't have the heart center, you're finally going to have to know in the end that no person can fill up your void. God has to fill it. No other person can give you love, and that changes everything and makes you the happiest person in the world. In the end, you have to know that it has to come from God. So that makes you a spiritual teacher in the end, actually, if you have that open heart center. Okay. If you have your own throat center, you have your own voice. And if you don't, you have the voice of the collective. So if you're in a group, you're going to be speaking for the group, even if you don't know it. And that's interesting, right? So, and we talked about the mental center. If you have your own crown chakra, then you have your own spiritual connection to God that you already came in with, and you probably were enlightened in a past life already. That means that you're trying to ground that energy down here. You're trying to feel your feelings, feel your body, do things through action to use that spiritual energy. If you don't have it, then you're a spiritual seeker maybe, and you're going to find answers up here to connect you to God. And then some things are more about the ideas, you know, the concepts up here. Okay. So that's like a really fast overview. So then, okay, if you came in with an open emotional center, you're learning what it's like to be vulnerable. That's part of your lesson this lifetime. Okay, vulnerability is what feels like weakness, but is actually your real strength. Okay, vulnerability is where you can be truly enlightened. So, being okay with being vulnerable is a big deal for these people because they'd usually rather not be vulnerable because they are. And over here, learning that others are vulnerable. And maybe learning how to take care of others in that sense is good. The other thing about these people with closed, a closed emotional center or any kind of closed center means that you came in with your own specifics, like energy from your spirit, from your soul, in order to accomplish a certain task. So there's a dharmic, job that you're supposed to be doing with that closed center usually. Okay. If you came in with open centers or with an open emotional center, you're more just being in a certain sense. There's a beingness to you that might bother you because you might be like, but I want to do these specific things. You can do the specific things, but your life is a little bit less about this one thing, okay? It's a little bit more like about being here and kind of experiencing a range of things. And in terms of jobs, you know, you're going to be more like a little bit more flexible in terms of jobs in a certain sense. This is what's really hard for these people with the open emotional center is like that some of our purpose is just to be here. That's like really hard for me because I want to do stuff, you know, I want to accomplish really awesome things. You can still accomplish things, but you just have to understand that it's probably, you know, part of it is always just that presence. Part of it is always that beingness. That's what you're doing for other people is just by being here, you're doing something for them. Okay. So we're talking about the solar plexus. So there's some physical correlation, right? So if you guys can unblock your emotional thing over here, then your physical body here is going to be more healthy too. And this is a key place for everything because it's about willpower, accomplishing, doing stuff, and it connects your upper and your lower selves together. So just like the emotional body connects your mental body and your energetic body together, which it's like, you know, pretty important to have all that connected. So you guys have got to unblock. So you want to cleanse the emotions. By that I just mean feel them and like things, like move things along, have things moving instead of feeling stuck or like neutral and not knowing why. Because it's actually not a benefit to you or to other people around you for you to feel neutral. It's good to feel at peace with your feeling. That's a little bit different, you know? Like that you have a feeling, you know what it is, and you feel at peace with that. Like enjoying your feelings is actually important. It actually teaches everyone around you in this world that feelings are okay. That's part of what you're doing, is teaching that feelings are okay. And that's why it's really sad when people who have these emotional centers are completely ignoring them forever because they have an opportunity there to teach like that there's a different feeling that goes with different times of the day and different, you know, there's a feeling for everything. There's a feeling for every season. There's a feeling for every like sign of the zodiac, you know, everything. And it's all natural. It's all like a part of the normal human experience. And it's all like kind of awesome because it's like how we have fall, summer, winter, spring. If we didn't have that, it would be really boring, right? So it's like you guys are making our lives more interesting, okay? And the most important thing is to embrace like the variety and the passion. Because and I don't mean like go all crazy and do weird stuff just because you feel a feeling. I don't mean that. I mean like your passion in life and your feeling that you have right now, you can be passionate about that feeling, you know? These are the people that have the most passion, these emotional motor people. So they are quite often very attractive to those of us who don't have feelings. It's just kind of dangerous. It's kind of dangerous because this
fun though.
Yeah, well, as long as you guys have the attitude that it's fun to feel your feelings, then that's great. Okay, that's good. But if you're really feeling them, I always put that caveat on everything because everybody says stuff and it's like saying things and feeling things are different things, and most people are not really feeling anything. Over here, we don't have as much like passion in the sense that they have. We don't have like this excitement. Like there's a feeling of like passion, excitement, drive over here. The good thing though about that for us is that we don't make decisions based on our feelings. Okay? Alright. Like I'm not saying that we don't, you know, love somebody and that's why we're with them. It's not like that. It's just we're not going to be completely blinded to other things, right? Just because you feel a certain way doesn't mean you're not going to take into account every part of the situation. That's a good thing, because the thing with the passion over here is that it's like you need that for life to be fun and exciting, but you also need balance, and that's where these people come in. Because this is a much more like balanced state in a lot of ways. And if you're going to make decisions, I would consult these people or wait the 3 days to make the decision. I had a boyfriend who had one of these, and it was like, woo, really fun roller coaster, but then it was like, what is going on? Because he got blocked up and he stopped feeling his feelings, and then he wouldn't even talk to me anymore. Which is like, wow, you know? Like, I was the best thing that ever happened to him, and then he won't talk to me. But that's the extremes that are available to you guys. So that's what happens if you get blocked up. You can't let yourself get, you gotta move it. You gotta move it and feel it and accept yourselves, because it's really okay. And if you don't, you're gonna push people out of your lives. People are gonna be like, I'm getting out of here, this is too scary for me now. This is like this roller coaster has gone off the track. Okay. So, so the solar plexus, if it's open for you guys, so the health problems always come in human design if the person who's defined is blocked energetically there, like for instance, there's the sacral center. If they got molested as a child, okay, then that sacral center is probably blocked, and it's probably blocking up a whole lot of other stuff in their chart, okay? If they're blocked emotionally because they were told that emotions aren't good, that you shouldn't feel them as children, which is mostly what we were told, then it can affect anything else that this is connected to in your chart. So any of your ability to go to any of these other places and use these centers for your own evolution are going to get affected by whether or not you're, basically everyone had this blocked. Because everyone was told, no, don't feel that.
What is that one? I can't see it.
That's the emotional center.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so if you're not emotional, your health problems in this area are going to be about protecting it. You know those kung fu or whatever in Chinese medicine, they like wear a thing protecting your kidneys sometimes, that big sash in Chinese and Japanese culture. That's kind of like what we need, those people that are not emotional. Because I'm not saying to do that, but I'm just saying that's like the feeling, is you want to be like, I'm protecting the center of my body. You know? Because you have all sorts of stuff happening, coming in there from everybody around you all the time. And that's not going to change. So just feeling the feelings and going through the process that we'll do it a little bit here. Okay. So just starting to journal and feel your feelings and admit them is actually going to start unblocking it, which might unblock a bunch of other parts of your chart too. And for him, it would unblock his manifesting too if he was feeling his feelings enough and like really know what they were. Then if he's having trouble making things happen, then that could be why. Because emotional manifester is it's an interesting situation. Okay, so so I'm gonna ask you your questions first, and then we're gonna do the process and stuff.
Yeah, I have one. It sounds like you can't really do a lot of work unless you know the person that you're dealing with.
It could be helpful to know
Right.
the person's chart, yes.
And
Especially
what
for
if
you.
they don't do it? What if they don't care about it and it's not their thing?
Yeah, for you that might be detrimental actually.
Right.
If for somebody else it might not be a big deal. For you as a projector, since you're taking in
Totally.
everyone's energy around you all the time and you're putting it back at them, you're actually here to help be a service to people by putting back at them what they're giving you. Okay. So if somebody doesn't care enough to even look at their chart with you, then they probably don't value you enough. You know? Because, like, if they care enough about you, they'll sit there for the 10 minutes, you guys, and look at the chart. So you gotta, especially as a projector, you gotta keep raising your standards and being like, nope, sorry, you're out of here. You don't care enough about me. Like, honestly.
Yeah.
Because projectors are doing a service. If you're with a generator, you're doing a service for them all the time. And if they appreciate you, that could be awesome. That could be fine because they have the ability to do stuff that you can't do. So you guys can take on different roles. You know, you can do stuff for each other.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're not appreciating you, you're going to be bringing things to their attention all the time that they're like, no, don't tell me that. If you're getting that, see, every projector I say that to is like, and if you have that experience, it's just like, hit the road, Jack. It's like that. I mean, I wouldn't say that to most people, but to a projector, it's like, not worth it. Maybe a reflector too. I would not want a reflector to be around somebody who didn't appreciate them because they have none of their own centers. Okay, so they're just purely a service-oriented person. Like, they're just here to absorb all the stuff, and they're going to absorb all the bad stuff, you know, if they're around somebody who hasn't gotten themselves straightened out at all. Okay.
So who do I go with?
So I don't recall what you said.
You.
Oh, what you were? Oh, I can look it up again.
You can be with lots of different people.
Yeah. It's always good, right?
You're not a generator, so it's going to be a little bit annoying. Generators are going to be a little bit annoying to you, probably, because that's my experience with talking to most manifestors. Because they do the same thing over and over again, and you're like the one who could tell them, no, don't do that, do this. And if they don't listen to you, that can be really annoying, because you're actually supposed to tell them what to do.
Right.
So, if they don't listen to you, don't be with them, okay?
Maybe that's why I'm going to divorce.
I don't mean it like, you know, in a really sexist way or anything. I just mean like that you do have some knowledge that will help people, and if they're not listening, then it's kind of not you know, your abilities aren't helping people. But you've got to really watch your emotions because that's going to mess with everything in terms of being a manifestor. That's why you should probably be with an emotional person
What was your birthday again?
who is
February?
either probably a
February
manifestor or a
16th?
projector or something. Manifesting generator. Manifestors and manifesting generators go together pretty well. Because manifesting generators are generators who have their own energy, but they also have a little bit of that manifesting ability. And if they're able to recognize you as sort of kind of an authority and a divine masculine sense of authority, then they can help you like get stuff done, like make stuff happen. Because you should be trying to get stuff done in the same way that generators do, physically. Like, doing stuff physically is okay and it's good, but you can overdo it. And your aura is closed, so a lot of generators are not gonna, like, they're gonna be scared of you. A lot of people are scared of manifestors, especially if they're emotional, because there's that feeling of like, oh, wait, you know, like there's like that feeling of if somebody says the wrong thing that you could get mad, or upset, or sad, or like many other things, or afraid. Okay, so
7:52 p.m.
it's a
I
complicated
think I'm that
situation.
unpredictable, but alright.
Okay, so unpredictable. Yes, that's a good way of explaining
Second.
emotional manifestors. And there's 2 manifesting generators. Nope,
Yeah.
3. So manifesting generators are like can super get tons of stuff done. That's why I love manifesting generators. They quite often recognize projectors for what they know too. The only problem is that they can like short out and stuff. They can burn out, and also people can give them all of the jobs, which can be kind of like, whoa, okay, I can do a lot of stuff, but you don't need to give me all of the jobs. That's a little extreme. Projectors can do well with manifesting generators sometimes. I would be careful if you're not emotional or you feel emotional again, just because, yeah, it can be very, like, confusing, the emotional motor.
Could you explain projector again? I don't remember what you said.
I can't really, because it's such a long subject, and I'm going to talk about it next week.
What
Okay.
centers?
But-
what? I'm sorry.
I mean, like, I could spend 2 hours talking about it,
Oh,
so.
Right.
Manifesting generator?
You are someone who's
Yeah.
taking in the energy and the emotions and the feelings of other people, and putting them out.
You said-
Okay.
You don't even know yourself except for by knowing the other person.
But he's got
So, teachers, consultants,
Just have
specialists,
them.
usually spiritual teachers, artists. Okay. Okay, so any other questions before we do like experiential stuff? Questions about any of this stuff? Is anybody like super surprised about their situations? Let's give an example first from Jan, if you're okay, Jan.
Yeah, which one?
Well, today
Oh,
there was someone who we think probably has an emotional motor, okay?
yeah.
And came to tell Jan all about all of her feelings about everything, right?
Yeah, she always says.
Yeah.
She makes me crazy.
Right. So Jan had that feeling of like, whoa, I don't know if I want to get into this again, because it was a big like suck into the merry-go-round. So if she had said, can we identify your feeling, or like
Yeah.
maybe like, what are you feeling? How does that feel you? Like you can come up with creative ways to say it, right? Then maybe you could have cut some of the story out, because the feeling itself is not the problem. It's the story that's the problem.
It's the same way.
Okay. Okay, so these
Yeah.
guys over here, I want to try something where you guys journal for a second. Like we leave you for a second to just try to observe yourself and see if you can get in touch with any feelings at all. And you guys over here, I think I might take you into the other room since we don't have anybody here right now, and do the process technique for you with you because it's so important for you.
Do we need paper for that?
No, I'll give you this stuff.
Journal about anything? Or?
I just want you to journal about how you feel today. And just see if you can identify any feelings, especially if there was a change, like since this morning and to now. Or yesterday even, if you want to go into that.